Hi there. I'd like to talk about the creative process and how illustrators walk through a step-by-step process for creating their artwork. I'd like to use a recent illustration I did to kind of demonstrate that. So I find you get the best results when you follow this process and from start to finish. If you try to skip a step, sometimes things don't work out quite right. So here's what I'm talking about. In the beginning, when you're trying to decide what to do, what to create, what to draw, what to illustrate, you're going to be asking yourself, where do I come up with an idea? How do I get an idea? Sometimes you're stuck with a creative block, trying to decide where to go and what to do. Well, the best thing you can do is, I think, always be generating ideas. Throughout your day, have a sketchbook, have a notepad, be looking at things, be admiring things, and thinking about what you want to do. That's step one. Here's the poster I did recently in honor of Comic-Con. As many of you know, in 2020, Comic-Con was canceled, and I was really sad about that. And I wanted to do something in honor of the canceled convention that reminded me of how I felt when I used to go. And this is what resulted. It was a design dedicated to cosplayers and fans alike that go to San Diego and enjoy that nerd camp, that nerd adult camp that everyone gets to participate in every year. And I want to walk through the steps I went through to develop this idea. Because again, I wanted to do something for Comic-Con, didn't quite know what it was going to be. So where I usually start is thinking about style and subject, and that requires research. And what I'm prone to do is look for artists and artwork that inspire me on a regular basis. I like to use Pinterest for that, where if I find something that I like and I want to remember it and capture it, I'll make a page for it. And so recently I've been working on a collection of what I'm calling whimsical art that has kind of a retro cartoon style that fits in the kind of vector art I want to make. Artists that inspire me are people like Mary Blair, one of the Disney artists who helped develop the look and feel of Small World and many of the other, mid-century products produced by Disney. An amazing artist, very talented, and a really bright and vibrant color palette that she used. And so I like looking at her work for inspiration in this regard. I also like looking at Shag. He's a really cool retro artist. He's been working for many years. His posters and prints are sought after by collectors. He's a very talented artist, and I like his style a lot. And so been thinking about the way he illustrates characters, the way he composes a scene, the way he puts things together in his prints. So that all becomes a mixture in my mind, not necessarily anything specific other than it's just, filling my visual library, putting ideas in my head that eventually, when necessary, I can draw on and pull out when I need them. And this is where the doodling starts. Once I've spent some time looking at artwork that I admire, researching ideas, thinking about artists that I look up to, then it comes time to start sketching and doodling. And this is where I tend to run into artist block, where I might be trying to think of an idea, and sometimes you might feel the same way, that how do I know the end from the beginning? I don't know what I want to do yet, so what am I doodling? What am I drawing? Well, frankly, you just have to start somewhere. Maybe it's writing a name on the page. Maybe it's drawing a picture of something on the page and trying to arrange things around it. Try different compositions. So you're trying to do a few things all at once. You're trying to think about focal points, composition, and what elements are going to go into your design. And I find that I get the best result when I just try to go fast and quick and loose. I don't try to do anything really specific or detailed. I don't want to get lost in trying to noodle something too much. I just want to get it out on the page. And I find that if I get something down on the page, then I can do another one. And my goal in the second one is to just be different than the first. Same with the third, fourth, fifth, is try doing something different each time. And I don't know what it is, but that doodling drawing process is what tends to unlock ideas in my mind. It's when I'm drawing that I have an idea for something else. So I don't know if the activity of drawing is what unlocks that secret, but moving my hands is an important part of that process for me. If you just sit there thinking all day, no ideas ever come to me. It's in the process of doing that things actually start to come together. Also, because I knew this poster was going to be dedicated to San Diego, there are some iconic geography, some iconic landmarks that you see there in the city. So I wanted to capture those as well. And so I started doodling different designs for the building, the convention center, the bridge, some of the towers around the seaside. Started constructing those elements. I tend to work in Adobe, not Adobe, Freudian slip, in Procreate right now on my iPad. That's where I sketch. And what I'll do is sketch items on different layers so that I can then recompose them and put them into a final picture. Here's some pictures of Comic-Con, just looking at the crowd, trying to think if there are any elements there that might show up in one of my posters. And that's where I started getting the idea for using a couple people in cosplay to have them going to Comic-Con. And again, here's the example of that rough sketch. When I work in Procreate, I like to use a light blue pencil. That way, it just reminds me of that preliminary process where I'm working light. I'm not deciding on anything definitive. I'm just kind of roughing things out and deciding where things are going to go. Now, this is being done in an illustrative process. I'm working in a drawing method, but I do the same thing when I'm working with photography. What I might do if I'm working on a photographic montage is start deciding what kinds of photos I'm going to need for my design, and then doodle and sketch those photos in my composition and start thinking about what those elements are going to be. And then I work on size, scale, composition at this stage. And again, working in Procreate with layers, I can recompose things as needed. And so this particular drawing went through a number of iterations, trying out different sizes, scales, positions of things until I really decided I was happy with it. I had two main ideas that came up during that process while I was working. One was to have the characters in cosplay, exploring the city. And then the other was to have two people leaving the convention center remembering the time that they spent at Comic-Con. So I thought those two concepts were good. One, kind of the literal idea, they're at Comic-Con enjoying the day. And then the other, they're in San Diego remembering fondly what they missed or what wasn't there anymore. So those were the two emotions I wanted to evoke. A couple having fun, a couple reminiscing. Those became kind of the centerpieces of the design. And I had to kind of pick which direction I wanted to go. I settled on working on the couple dreaming about Comic-Con. And this is that process where what I'll do is I'll take that sketch directly into Illustrator and I'll start doing the vector drawing as needed to fill out the design. This stage is difficult because I don't quite have my colors picked. I don't quite have the full complete design just yet. I have to get it down on the page and then start determining where things are going to go and what colors are going to be as I work it through. So I try to work in layers. I try to separate things in ways that I can come back to them later and revise them as needed, because a lot of revision happens at this stage of the game. You start building the final design, but then when you get to that point, you start working on color schemes. You start working on other ideas that will finish it. So when you come up with two good ideas, there's nothing better than just doing both ideas. And that's what I decided to do in this case, is I did both. I was really happy with the way they turned out and looked for ways to reuse and utilize the different elements from both designs as they could be to stand out. And you can see how my original concept, where I was working on her in this color scheme, maybe that didn't work so well against the red train, for example. decided to change her color scheme and go with a complementary color instead, so she would stand out against the red train. Darkened some of the lamp posts and other things so they would stand out against the background elements. So those kinds of color choices can only happen when you're in the revision stage, when you've developed your art and then now you're trying to work on it. And so I'm pretty happy with how these turned out. I've got a couple going to Comic-Con and a couple missing and remembering Comic-Con. And so that's the design process, the illustration process. Do your homework so you can develop an idea, put in the effort and the time sketching and doodling your idea, spend time developing and revising your idea. Then once you have your artwork complete, be willing to edit and work on color schemes to make it sure that you get the right color scheme for your design, and then you're ready to have your finish. All right. So if you follow that logical process, you'll get better results in your work. If you skip and just go right to the end, you're going to push yourself into a corner and you're going to run out of options. So find it's best to be methodical and thoughtful as you work through the process. All right, so hopefully that gives you a little window into the creative process if you haven't thought about it that way before. Hopefully you can apply that to yourself, maybe improve what you're doing. All right, see you next time.